All right, we are live. That cut out a little short. Sorry everyone for the delay. We were supposed to have on Matthew Rife. Hopefully he is still able to make it tonight of Rife Technologies. But
say a little prayer for all the people we know having troubles in our lives, right? So I think Rife's he's got to help somebody out who's been in an accident. So
praying for his employee that was in a car accident. He had joined about an hour ago and then had to take off. So understandable if he is unable to make it, and prayers that everybody is okay.
Similarly, prayers to Jordan, right? Because Jordan's grandfather. Yeah, it's crazy. He just is in the hospital with him like all night the other night. There's a lot of people that we should be considering, So much love to everybody. That's something that we should be, at this time of year, Merry Christmas and all that.
Yeah, Barbara Walters died today.
Barbara Walters died today?
Yep.
What?
Seen it on. Yep, she just died. They just posted it online.
Prayers for everybody out there, and that 2023 is much better and healthier for everyone. I had a
microphone from Barbara Walters 60 Minutes for the longest time. And this Sennheiser shotgun microphone that they used that I got on eBay from the Minneapolis 60 Minutes production. I used it all the way up until the Trump election, and I lost it on the way. It got stolen or something on my way back from Ohio in 2016. But that's a weird sync to me. It's a weird sync to me. Barbara Walters,
man,
she's the one who outed what's his name, Woody Harrelson's father for the JFK assassination, right? When she interviewed him on 60 Minutes,
back when mainstream journalism was actually journalism.
Well, I don't know, but Barbara Walters is it's kind of interesting.
So. Year of the Coil. The episode shall continue either way. Geralrd will be joining us here at some point too. I think within about 15 minutes. But we got Mike with Faraday Research with us, at least one coil expert.
I'm freaking excited. You keep teasing us with all the things you've been working on. So this is
I got
major
more.
Reveal. It's a major.
I got more. I got more. I went shopping today. And I picked up the new box that's going to house the generator. So it's a server case. Actually, here.
Speak of the G,
and Geralrd.
Sorry. So Christmas came late for Mike, but it's still the Christmas season.
Well, it's the people that support me. One of my supporters gave me the cash, and I was able to purchase the server case. Let me just change my camera here for a second. Sorry. There's the server case.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, that'll look professional.
Yeah, well, see, plus when I bring it to get it validated, I want it to actually look like a real machine. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's got the door on it, glass door. It's got the racks inside. I can retrofit everything inside there. It's already got grounding straps for the chassis. Yeah. So I picked this up it was on sale. I guess New Year's special. It's a regular $165. I picked it up for $125. So I think I got a pretty good deal on this thing. And it's heavy too. It's not light. And all the side panels come off. Got fan. This plate can come off if I need to put stuff on the top. Yeah, it's really good. It's modular, right? So I can really do a lot. That's the back of it. So it's quite large. It's big and heavy, but that's what I need. I need something that's going to hold everything, all the batteries. Yeah.
Nice. So what's you got glass on one side, and then what's the rest of it made out of? The composite?
It's all made of steel paneling. The side panels can actually come off.
Is that going to affect the magnetic field then of the overall
system? No, it won't. No, it should be fine. Like there will be some magnetic forces in there, but it's not going to immediately affect the way the motor operates. There's a lot of space in there.
Right.
So,
God, I want to put some GPUs in that box.
oh, you could probably fit quite a few in this thing.
I don't know. They're getting pretty big.
Yeah, it's true. I was gonna say I was thinking you could probably get 2 in there, maybe 3. The new GTX or whatever's, yeah,
There's some extra batteries in there.
RTX, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's why I need the room for the batteries.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. So
Now, what I'm wondering about is the batteries that you're using, if like running them in series, but if it'd be possible to also add into that series some of the little micro crystal batteries that Nancy had.
well,
If we produce them,
yeah,
and
yeah, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I'm working on some new concepts for the crystal battery. I'm waiting for some parts to come in from China, and they're taking forever to get here, as usual.
overseas time. And yes, Tyler Arnold, that is the housing for the Adams motor, correct?
Yeah.
And Gerald, you're with us. You there, brother? Do we have? Yes, we do. Welcome.
Good evening.
Oh, Geralrd, dude, so stoked to see you again. You think this? I'm sarcastic. You should wear. You should hear what I don't say. Okay, there it is. I thought I saw it.
Very
Sorry.
smooth.
I had to throw something out there,
Very good.
So how is everybody?
Well, we're set
Excellent.
up to. We had the ones of us who made it and aren't in hospitals or car accidents are well. We're thinking about everybody tonight. Our buddy Matt Ref is taking care of his friend, is his employee who was in a car accident. So he's in our thoughts and prayers. But we're also super excited because you're here. Mike's here. We're gonna be able to do a pretty interesting show, looking at the coils and the things that you've got. I'm kind of curious what you want to show us. What do you got to show us tonight?
What do I got to show you? Well, I was in the process of setting up an experiment, but it would take me a little bit to put it back together, and I don't know if anybody would quite understand what it means. So
that's okay. Experiments.
That's all the better.
Right. And that's a good point. But also
now
just
we can all ask
recording
questions.
them on video, and then so you have it documented, you got the results documented, you know what it means, and then it's there for those that are able to figure out what it means forever.
Yeah, showing people and having us, a lot of people here, I'm sure you guys can join in while we're trying to figure out what is really going on with electricity.
Well, you know what? I'll set it up. It'll take me a few minutes, so I'll shut my camera off and go do what I got to do, and then once it's set up, I'll show you. But I'm spinning a magnet in a way that it shouldn't be spun. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm spinning a magnet that, as far as I'm aware, doesn't normally spin that way.
Okay.
And if you guys can figure out how or what that means, well, it'll be an interesting conversation. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. So, I like it. I like where we're started.
It's enough to entice JP to join in.
Yeah. We need to talk
maybe, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Maybe he's watching. Maybe he's that guy out there. Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to see. JP's he's a brilliant, different individual. I love Jeremiah. He's great. All right, so you want me to bow out and set this thing up, or did you guys want to go?
Yes, please. We'll let you do that, and then while you're doing that, we'll go over Mike's most recent work and video here, where he shows some tests and what was it, 195% over?
Yeah, I recorded about 195% efficiency.
Wow. Yes, by the way, Mike, awesome work. Good job.
Thanks.
I've been watching your channel. It's you're doing awesome. Keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, I'm at the point now where the concept's there. I'm getting the results on my readings that seem to be pretty consistent. So it's time to take it to the next level. So I bought the new server case I was just showing everybody before you came on. I'm going to be installing the entire system into a server case.
That'll be
And
great.
yeah, so it's going to look more professional. I'll be able to bank all the batteries inside, and just make it look like an actual unit that you would use in your home, right?
Nice.
There we
So,
go.
All right. Where should I play it?
okay, well,
towards the
at the
end?
beginning, it shows when I'm doing an actual load test of the lights that I'm using. So those lights there are rated at, well, they say it simulates 47 watts total, right? But the actual wattage to actually run those, because they're LEDs, it takes 18.3 watts. So, the actual rating of what they say is what it simulates, not the actual power input.
Okay.
So, what I did was I hooked up an inverter to a battery, and then hooked up the lights to the inverter with a watt hour meter hooked up to it, and it was giving me 18.3 watts. So I know if my motor can actually power up those lights, I'm I'm getting about 18 watts of power going in. But the way my motor works, it runs on reactive power. That's why I call it the RPG, reactive power generator. And reactive power is different from real power. So, the best analogy I can, explain to people, it's like getting a glass and you pour beer in it, and how it foams up on the top, and then you got the beer at the bottom. Well, the foam on top is reactive power. The real power is the beer on the bottom. So it has the ability to create the mass effect, but it doesn't have the energy density that real power has. So if you go back to Tesla, he explains what you have to do with reactive power. And the only way you can make the reactive power into real power is by dumping that power into a capacitor. This is where the transformation from reactive power to real power takes place. So that's the basis of how my generator actually works. I create a huge amount of reactive power, I dump it into a capacitor, and then I can do whatever I want with it. So the last half, or I would say about 3/4 of the way in, I start showing the results of my tests on a piece of paper. So it turns out my motor takes about 3.16 watts, I believe it was, input, and the actual power that I was getting out with a resistive load on it came out to 6.315, something like that. Yeah, it'll show. It's coming up here on the video.
Do you want me to turn the sound on, or?
Yeah, just play it from here. So if you times 32.9 volts, times that by 0.11 amps, means I was putting into the motor 3.619 watts DC, not AC, DC. Okay. Now here's where it gets interesting. I did the meter readings on the output on here, coming out of here. Okay. So now I got 33.7 volts DC. It went up. It was 32.9 here. Now it's 33.7. I had 0.11 amps here. Now it's 185 amps. It went up as well. So my voltage went up and my current went up. So it went up about 70 milliamps, 75 milliamps increase. All right. So I went up about, 75 milliamps. So now if you times 33.7 times 0.185 amps, I was putting out 6.2345 watts. That means I was putting out twice the amount of power that I was putting in. So from my meter readings, what I'm getting, this thing is over unity. I'm getting twice the amount of power out that I'm putting in. It's right there in the numbers. I can't lie. So there it is. Here's a better little screenshot of it. All right. Now, this is all in DC. Okay. This one here, it was an AC, but you're converting a DC load into an AC current. So it takes less DC wattage to power an AC wattage. It went from 7.25 watts DC to 18 watts AC. So right there, that's over unity. If you want to look at it like that, it really is. But it becomes inefficient in the fact that it's running at 60 hertz. It's actually drawing a lot of current. So that this is where the problem occurs, why these things are not efficient, the inverters. Off the battery load, look how many amps it's drawing. It's drawing over a half an amp, almost 0.6 amps. That's a lot of load to come off a battery. And that's why it sounds good here. You know, you got 7.25 watts DC going in, but people don't understand what kills a battery. Amps. And that's exactly what makes this system inefficient. It's pulling over a half an amp. That's why if it was, say, down to, say, like 11 milliamps or say 110 milliamps, that's a lot better than a half an amp, right? So you're going to kill a battery off pretty fast with this. It won't last. It'll die. Now, I can achieve almost the same kind of values, but a lot better because this machine is at a higher hertz level. Frequency is everything. Tesla talks about energy, frequency, vibration. Okay. So you can put in a lot of power, very little current, and get higher wattage output because my frequency, everybody, frequency is higher than 60 hertz. That's why I'm getting the ability to only put in, I'm putting in 3.6 watts, and I can almost light all those lights up. Is because the frequency. I'm running at a higher frequency. I'm putting in 3.6 watts in, and my motor is going over unity to 6.32 watts output. So I'm putting 6 watts in. I'm able to light up all those lights up because of the frequency. You see what I'm getting at? If you run at 60 hertz, you got to put a hell of a lot more current in to do the same job. You get it? If you're running at a higher frequency, you can do the same job with less current. If you're running at 60 hertz and say not like this thing, I believe is running about almost 130 hertz. This is running at 60 hertz. It takes a huge amount of current to run it. 0.58 amps. See what I'm getting at? So, you know, like you're trying to compare apples and oranges here because it actually is. It's very confusing to a lot of people. I understand that. But now I totally understand what's going on. And the best part about it, this was the one that really got me, was my machine is over unity. And the reason for it is because I'm running the machine at a higher frequency. Okay, that's where it all boils down to. Okay, you don't have to look at what your actual output is. It's the ratio of what you're putting in versus what you're getting out. I don't care if I'm making 18 or 20, 50, 100 watts. I don't care about the output. I care about the ratio of how much power I'm putting in the system versus how much I'm putting. Okay, so based on my calculations, my machine is putting in 0.36 watts in, and I'm getting 6.2345 watts out. I'm getting double the power out. That's okay there, Bernie. This machine is over unity.
And I
Yeah. So yeah, basically, and Tesla talks about this extensively in his research, that I could find that the only way you get over unity or achieve that kind of effect is higher voltages. So like if you're going to run a pulse motor or any kind of pulse motor or atoms motor, if you're running it at 12 volts, you're wasting your time. You really are. My motor, I'm running it at 32 volts. I actually want to get it up to 64 volts because the higher voltage potential I can get in, the more reactive power I can generate at a high frequency. And that ratio will now increase even higher. So the more power, a high uh, energy I put into it, because that's what Tesla was heading towards. He was heading towards energy systems, not power systems. Power systems are wasteful. He was working on, because energy is always there. It's a constant, right? It's always there. It's around us. It's in the ether. All he was saying is, why create a power system when we already have an energy based system already there? All you have to do is tap into it, right? So that's basically how my motor goes over unity. Higher voltage input, low amps, right? If my motor runs, say, 50 milliamps to 100 milliamps, that's really good. If anybody makes a pulse motor and it's pulling 300 milliamps, it's just something's not right. It should run 100 milliamps or less. Actually, I've had mine run as low as 20 milliamps. So, yeah, high frequency, get the motor speeded up, get it well over 60 hertz. And yeah, so that's where you got to go. You just got to put in more voltage, lower current, put in the piezo transducer. That's a game changer right there, all in its own, right? And yeah, you'll get over unity, guaranteed. It's just everybody's hung up on 60 hertz. You got to get away from that. Actually, I heard he was a former NASA engineer. He was a diagnostic specialist, electrical engineer. And he said, like the outdoor lighting that we used to light up the streets and everything, he said if we were to bump that up to, say, 120 hertz, he says to power the city would take less than half because of the frequency.
Right? Like it's just the grid, the whole system is
It's
designed
parasitic. It's
efficient.
parasitic.
Yeah, parasitic, like destructive, waste of so much resources
Well,
that
they
we
deliberately
need
did that.
to efficient size it, make it all
Right.
exponentially more efficient, and that's essentially what you're proving and doing with a lot of your work here.
Yeah. It's all boiling down to the frequency that is used to power our devices. And right from day one, it's been done wrong. 60 hertz is parasitic. It's bad for your body. Neurologically, it's bad for you. It destroys itself. You can't recover that power. And they do it deliberately, so you keep forking out money to the hydro company every month.
I've got a bit of history on the power grid if you're interested.
Sure.
It started
Yeah,
off as
absolutely.
400. It was 400 cycles per second was the AC.
Right. That's what
And
Tesla did. Yep.
well, nobody could get an AC motor to work. Tesla was the one that dropped it to 60 because the motors worked. Everything else was less efficient, but the motors were possible then. And
Yeah.
that's why they changed it. And there's no reason with our modern technology, well, we need to keep with 60. We could go back to 400 and we'd be fine.
Sure. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Because don't forget, back in those days, they built everything big and heavy, right? They were very inefficient. They were very wasteful. They're all made of iron, right? Iron and
Yep.
brass.
They had lots of resources. I don't think they imagined a future where, we can only own so much metal. There's so many people on the planet. Like, we need to scale down.
Hmm. Yeah, but like you said earlier, this is we're in the 21st century. Hello, like we have the technology to do it now. Like if I can get my motor to spin at 5,000 RPMs at 40 milliamps, it's possible. you know, Like, we've had the technology for a long, long time, but they just continue to use 60 hertz. Like, half the devices, like, perfect example would be your TV. It actually runs on 12 volts DC. You have a converter inside, so you can plug it into the wall, converts it to 12 volts DC, and that's what powers your TV. Well, there you go. You're wasting power right there just by using the grid at 60 hertz. Meanwhile, it only takes 12 volts to run the TV. So stuff like that, right?
I have an off-grid solar power system at home, and the inefficiencies with all those converters is enormous. If you just
Oh, it's
convert
huge.
everything to 12 volts in your house,
Yeah.
well, other than the refrigerator potentially, but
Mm.
most things you can convert and save a huge amount of energy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing what can be done.
Yep. I agree, 100%. Yep. It's just the way it was designed. It's an old platform, right? It's like we're still using
it was
version.
designed
We're
to
still
be as inefficient as possible so they could make as much off of it, supplying the resources
That's right.
to generate the power, right?
That's right. Like, we're still using version 1.0. We should be on version 6.0. You know what I mean? The technology is there. Like, anybody who says the technology is not there, they're full of crap. Really.
Right? Time and time again. Should we show a bit of the video before that where you were connecting the Don Smith generator aspects of the spark gap?
Yeah, that was kind of
experimenting.
just a kind of a raw test. Yeah.
Right, but it's that you're now connecting two different over efficient systems together and starting to experiment when you're connecting the two, which should potentially then exponentially, or at least like 1x 100 times more efficient, 200 more, like, combined on top of the original, right?
Yeah, see, the key is, like, my system's based on reactive power generation. So the only way to change over that reactive power into real power is to dump it into capacitors. Now, if you're running at a high frequency and dumping into a higher voltage but a lower capacitance capacitor, you can keep up and keep the other device running because reactive power is running very, very fast. So it's like you're trying to put Niagara Falls through a garden hose, right? You have to bottleneck it into a smaller confined space to get the energy density up, and that's the whole purpose of putting the reactive power into a capacitor to get that energy density that you need to drive stuff, and that's where the real brute force comes from. So that's why I call it the RPG. It's a reactive power generator, and it's all because of the piezoelectric transducers. I think they're an over unity device all on their own, because that's why I'm getting the gains that I'm getting, right? It's not just the coil. The piezo and the coil work together as one harmonic resonant circuit. And that's, I guess, the key to my device, really.
That's why I was grasping that aspect of it. I was wondering if that metal ferrite case would affect the overall field when you put it into it, but you're saying not. But...
No, I don't think it will. I can never rule it out because I haven't built it yet. But the field is pretty confined into a small area. I've designed it so it's not really radiating out. I haven't had any problems like filming around it. It's not causing any kind of like
interference
EMPs. It's not creating any of that, because when you're using a coil and you have an inductor in it, the field only travels within that space. It's if you hit it with a very high shock of power, that's when you get the EMPs. But the EMPs that you can create on a Tesla coil, you can't do that with a cord coil. It's usually coreless. That's when you get your EMPs.
We got a question from Redcap Goblin Super Chat. Thank you for the support. Can you guys design a converter that you could plug house power into to filter the harmful stuff out, as in like the harmful radiations or frequencies, I believe is what he's asking.
Well, if you put a giant Faraday cage around it, but you can't confine it. It's parasitic, so it's like, you know, all the wires in your house act like a giant antenna, right? And when you got that parasitic frequency going through all the wiring in your house, you know, it's almost impossible to, you know, shield it all. You know, the shielding would be so extensive, right?
Essentially,
But
though, I think maybe more the Rife technology would possibly be able to create something like that. Or what Gerald's called.
I don't know
Gerald,
if you can run it. Well, I don't know if you could run it through your house power. I think what you would have to do is have a separate system running maybe off your house power, and it could mitigate those frequencies that are harmful. But I don't think you could take them out unless you totally changed your whole system and got off of 60 hertz altogether, like Mike was saying. So
you would have to have a whole separate circuit altogether. Like you would have to shut off your main power switch in the house, have a separate power switch that's in parallel with it, and then go with the higher frequency. It would cost so much money to do it. You know what I mean?
Going direct current gets rid of all the frequencies. That's the way I do it at home.
Yeah, that's it.
That's true.
It is. Yeah.
So we just need to go back to Edison then.
The only way this world is going to change if we go to decentralized power. If we go to decentralized power, things will change. Using the grid system, it just does not work.
Well, the grid system's a little, it's outdated, and it needs a lot of work, and I think eventually it might actually cause problems. So
I kind of wonder about like the copper wires in the houses though. Like, so at one point we probably had all these. You look at the Tartarian stuff, and you're like, hey,
I love
all the stuff that. Well, you know, all the ideas of free energy requiring old equipment that have been pulled out by meth addicts trying to like make money off the pipes, the copper pipes in the houses and stuff. And people now have these like PVC pipes in their houses. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird bittersweet because there's all this infrastructure that we used to have that would have been perfect for this. And it seems like so much of it's been removed.
Yeah.
We might have to switch to aluminum wires just to deal with the theft problem.
Don't use aluminum wires. I have it in my house. It gives the fantastic illusion of access to electricity.
Oh, what issue are you getting?
The ends of the wires will corrode and light on fire. I've had one fire that didn't burn my place down. Don't use aluminum wire. At least use copper coated aluminum. Aluminum's not going to work.
Yeah, aluminum's a bad choice. Bad choice.
Yeah, when aluminum heats up, does it not? It's been linked to Alzheimer's when it heats to a certain temperature. Has it not?
Well, aluminum is what we use for the high current long distance wires.
I heard the Alzheimer's thing though for sure, and the idea that aluminum oxide it can be like really toxic, and that we have no idea how many. Pretty much everyone's
big time,
right? I don't know. The chemtrail thing. You know, the idea that there's a lot of aluminum oxide in the atmosphere. Isn't that supposed to be something with electrostatic as well though? Because what's the thing, Brittany? What's that thing with the pins in space in the sky?
Well, the rods of God.
Operation Pins, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure if I know that one. You want to?
They dropped like millions of pins.
See, static electricity. A lot of people don't realize the conjugate of static electricity is orgone, and they say, "Oh yeah, the ionizers are dangerous in your house." No, they're not. They're drawing in orgone. Orgone is attracted to ionized air. You know, like
I guess the question goes is what truly is orgone?
Orgone is the life force energy. It's the ether. It's the ether energy that's around us.
It taps into static electricity, correct?
When you have static electricity present, orgone is beside it. It draws it in like a magnet.
Yeah, orgone's like a third part of electricity, so you would have like negative and positive, and if you could cross the streams in certain ways, so to speak, the result would be ether or orgone or scalar, or call it what you will.
Yep.
Excess energy. I don't know. It's definitely debatable, but I believe it's out there. I believe that systems
Well,
like Mike's and mine, and even Matthew Rife, I believe that if that's his name, if am I correct in saying so, I believe he
Yes,
has
you are.
something similar.
And right, like that's the perfect topic for when he's on. I was literally thinking that.
like even water attracts orgone energy as well. Wilhelm Reich was using it in his Cloudbuster, the big one that looked like a missile turret. Well,
Yep.
he had huge buckets of water behind it, and those flexible steel tubings were going into these buckets of water. So water sucks up orgone energy.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't you when you made the orgone boxes that they would make, and you'd sit in this box, and it was layers of different materials. When
Yeah.
you sat in the box, you actually put your feet in a bucket of water. So I
Yep.
kind of get what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting
Water.
tech by far.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing the structured water, and I do believe orgon's present in the structured water.
Yeah, some people believe it has something to do with the easy layer that Gerald Pollock was researching on.
I love Gerald Pollock's work and like the easy water zoning and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that is very interesting research. It could go to so many different additives to different tech that we've seen in the past that we weren't aware of, so to speak. If I'm putting that correctly.
I'm half convinced that water stuff like that is the charge clusters in the water, and that's why it holds extra energy and does things. Biology figured this stuff out a long time ago.
Kind of like sonoluminescence. I'm not saying that word right.
Oh yeah, like
Sonoluminescence.
I've never said it right. I don't know why.
Isn't it sono?
First day of my new tongue, I guess. I'm not sure.
I'm worried about sono, like sonoluminescence, like luminescence.
Sonoluminescence, I think it is.
Sono, sono, like
Sonoluminescence. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I'm getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Brain fart.
So it's it's sonic, right? Because the idea is that God said, "Let there be light," and then it's a sonoluminescence that the
Right.
friction created the light.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point that you brought up. When God said, "Let there be light," He moved upon the water. So when
Unless
he
it was
moved
a she,
upon the
right?
water, well, yeah, okay, we can go there too. But for the sake of this argument, I'll say he. Just brain fart,
Alright.
kind of the way it works in my head. When he said, "Move upon the water," or "Let there be light," and he moved upon the water, I imagine it a lot to be like all the geometrical forms that come up through sound. And because of that came up, that motion is what actually created light through sonoluminescence, like you said.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting
that's exactly,
fact.
I think that's the
Yeah.
idea. So, and I would go further. I think it's darkness that's creating light. So God is the feminine darkness, the matrices, like, and then from there, the Lucifer, because light is separated from God after it's created. So God exists in darkness, speaks. From the permission of speech, sonoluminescence friction creates the patterns which materialize from energy, which becomes light. But it's interesting then because then you got this whole thing with Bavarian Illuminati and their obsession with the male deity and light bringer, and the feminine masculine flip of Saturn. So I don't know. That's not really science.
See, it goes back again to the frequency. When you have a certain frequency in sound, it creates a specific geometrical shape. Now that specific geometrical shape, the sound actually reverberates off the water and changes the DNA of the water according to the frequency and the geometrical shape that it is forming into.
There's a lot of evidence with a saline solution because the crystals in the salt water could be the thing that allows for radiation or some sort of light or energy.
Because
essentially happens.
it goes back to the Bible, right? They use holy water. So when they focus their prayers and their consciousness and intentions into that water is retaining that information. And it's been proven that water holds information. It goes back that far. So what did they know that we lost that information over the centuries? We have to rediscover that technology, and that's why I've been working on this water machine, right? So speaking of which, I'm building a new version of the water machine in the new year. It's going to blow your mind.
I designed
2023 is
a lot
going to
of
be
it.
lit.
I built it though. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I can light my.
I said 2023 is going to be lit. It's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
Right? All no darkness, all light.
I designed
shout out and prayers to Robert joining in from Facebook. Just messaged me. He's also just in a car accident.
Whoa!
Right there. So Robert,
another car accident. Rob,
and
we're praying for you too. This is going to be a list.
There.
Oh, we hope you're all right.
There's a list for that.
Nobody
Barbara
drive.
Walters died.
Nobody drive. Just stay home and watch TV with. Barbara Walters is dead too. So don't watch TV. Watch YouTube with us. Watch us. We'll be here to keep you safe.
Yeah, then there'll be no car accidents.
Just keep resting, Barbara.
Yeah, I think I was listening to something recently about the Hopi Indians and how they speak how there's 4 different groups of people and they were all given gifts back in the time of creation. And one of the gifts that was given to the white man, and it was considered fire. But they explain their definition of fire is the spark, the light. That so I believe that's so much. What's that?
The ability to make the fire, not the
and I believe that fire goes more than just burning wood. I think fully it has to do with the spark, but that spark is also
DNA is exploding.
You too,
that's what
right?
DNA is. Clockwork of explosions. Constantly.
Yes, it is. A clockwork of explosions that activates other DNA. It's like a ladder.
I love the
staircase.
The clockmaker metaphor is more and more poignant. Like, I don't know if you were in the church people, they'd be like, "Hey, evolutionists, have you ever seen a sandstorm make a watch? The clockmaker must have made the." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But now I'm thinking about it, and realistically, whether they meant it or not, we are basically this clockwork spring mechanism of everything is spring clock.
After some point, it looks more like a Rube Goldberg machine.
I mean, and I was about to say Clockwork Elves, so Simon, you're not wrong.
Like, I don't know if you've looked at the immune system, but holy crap, that is complicated.
It is. But there's
amino acids and protein folds are definitely friggin' Dr. Seussian.
But then it's like it could be equally easy if it's as simple as monoatomic gold and silver and colloidal waters that just magnify the fields and... We will.
You ever see like gold particles in colloidal gold unfolding and refolding, fixing a protein fold that's been misfolded? It's able to like wriggle it until it gets
like a prion.
Yeah. Well,
I'll see. I'll find a video.
It goes back to Rife's work. He's using frequency and energy or sound to basically manipulate DNA, and that's exactly what he was doing. So there's
all sound affects DNA, but sound moves energy. So if you're using energy and you're using sound to move said energy and you're moving it in a very specific geometrical shape,
right?
Those shapes definitely resonate with the shapes of the cells that are within our body. And since we're always changing and shifting, if we could impart energy into those cells, they would renew quicker and we would be, essentially healing a lot faster. I fully believe it has a lot to do with frequency.
Yeah. And there you go. Tesla, energy, frequency, vibration. It keeps coming back over and over and over again.
See, if you go back to, somebody had just brought up manna. Well, they used to call it mifkit in Egypt. And some people call it the Philosopher's Stone. Is it monatomic gold, like BurnEye says, or is it multiple different elements that are mixed within that as a recipe and a formula? I could tell you a little story about essential oils. I used frankincense and myrrh in my bathtub one time, and I put a little bit too much, and it felt like I was on LSD. I was just waxed. My brain, like I was vibrating at a level I've never felt before. It was unreal. And I had meditated in that time because what I wanted to know was, why is it that back in the Bible when Jesus was born, the 3 wise men came and gave him gold, frankincense, and myrrh? What did that have to do with, what was
Right?
going on?
And
So-
wasn't frankincense and myrrh also a key part of the ritual of handling the the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the
the
Covenant?
Ark of the Covenant?
Yeah.
It had
believe
something to
so.
do with bringing your vibration to a higher level, definitely. And I think the gold, the monatomic gold, the Mifkit, the mana, call it what you will, I believe that within your system would allow you to hold on to that vibration a lot longer than, like for me, when I used it in my bathtub, it lasted about 4 to 6 hours. But I imagine with monatomic gold in your system, it would be extended, who knows, exponentially.
It could actually activate your pineal gland, your third eye.
Yep.
There's a bunch
Yep,
of data
I've
on AlphaFold now, because like AI has been doing studies of how amino acids are folding, and all of it comes to frequency, how they bend, where they bend, because they're these weird ribbons, right? Essentially, at least we look at them like ribbons. They're really more like bullets on Chewbacca or Worf's vest, I guess. They're just exploding or something. But if you've got all of the frequencies necessary to bend them, and the football plays necessary to refold them, this might be a major breakthrough in repairing protein folds, which because protein fold problems happen a lot. Well, that's
curing some of the worst health ailments that the human body has. They'll be gone.
Yeah,
just
until hopefully
we
they get rid of
understand.
aging. Kind of. I think the thing is, like, death is fine with me, but aging sucks. No, I think that the whole idea of like Alzheimer's, amnesia, dementia, all this stuff.
No, but
like,
if you're using like the the water, the structured water, you can really negate the effects of aging.
Right. I think that's the thing is the most of what we think of as aging is really just a disease. There really is a wearing down of our system that isn't necessary.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what it's going to take is multiple different factors. I think it's going to take structured water, monatomic gold. It's going to take vibration, or at least the increasing of your vibration through. There's different means in order to do so. But like you said, aging, it's just the breaking down of our body. So if you can renew your cells and do that, say, every day, you're not going to live forever, but it can extend your life. It's written that our lives were 1,000 years at one point. Why can't we go back to that?
Yeah, and I think a big part of why we don't live that long anymore has to do with all this parasitic garbage power that's going through our grid. Like,
we can vote those governments out. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, you have all these cell phone towers around. If I would get a big axe, I'd start hacking down all these 5G towers and putting up Tesla coils on every single one. Then everybody would have wireless power for free, and it'll be running at a high frequency, so it's no longer bad for your body anymore.
That's a question also.
You know what I mean?
Why would we hack down would we hack down the towers, or do we just like give them a big firmware up? Is there a Skynet firmware update that just like fixes the frequencies? Because isn't it basically a sign?
No, we'll keep the tower.
The tower part's okay, but isn't even the 5G omnidirectional radio antenna isn't he innocent too? I thought we just have to like change the firmware.
Essentially, I think you're right, Andreas. I think we could just upgrade the system to change the frequency. If frequency is everything, and we're already being changed or affected by the
This has
frequencies
to
of
be
5G.
part of the plan. Freemasons are selling us back free energy in order to free us in this giant reset, right? Come on, it's got to
Well,
be a
maybe not at first.
But like, because
But-
once it's all built, then it's going to be there. And then unless somebody goes around hacking down towers because they're meth addicts or they're against 5G, then maybe those towers will be useful, or possibly both.
Well,
right.
Here's something else to wrap your head around. If they've already set it up so that they're getting ready to give us free energy, are you sure they're getting ready to give it to us? Or do they already have the system working on free energy and they're charging us for our energy? Just a thought.
I like that. That makes the most sense. It's the Matrix. But I mean, yeah, I also think probably there is a lot of free energy. I'd like to get Jeremiah to confirm this idea, but he's been getting free energy from television signals. So there have to be certain military devices that are just wirelessly charging.
You know what?
themselves
Like
for spies, military.
Dollard,
Phone signals too.
Eric Dollard was talking about this actually in one of his telephone conversations. He says because the power grid system's so large and extensive, when they were using the motor generators, basically all they had to do was loop the system. It would sustain itself because there was so much energy out in the entire grid.
Yep.
All they had to do to keep
Piggyback.
the coils energized was just loop it right back into the system again. He says we've probably been using free energy for a long time, but nobody knows about it because nobody knows the technology to the extent that he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, like weren't a bunch of those old meters at the electrical meters on the houses that rotated?
Yep. Those generate power.
Gerald.
Yeah, I actually have one that I'm working with right now.
Oh,
and it does. It generates current, doesn't it?
Even better. I was thinking Geralrd Morin goes into.
Geralrd Morin did actually have one. Yeah, he was working with them too. If you pump a certain amount of wattage through it, it seems to start to spin backwards and produce for you.
Yeah.
But I haven't got it to that level yet. So on it though. You guys will be the first to know.
No, I was told a long time ago that those things actually will generate current for you, because back in the day, back in the early 20th century, they didn't have the power grid system like we have now. So Tesla created this little generator or / meter, put on the side of the house. All it needs is seed power, 120 volts at a couple of amps, and this thing, if you pull a load on it, you'll actually start to create this back EMF in the coil and generate current within the meter itself. So,
yeah, I've taken one apart, and they basically look like they basically look like a Tesla coil. To be honest with you, they're 3 separate stages. It's one single copper line that comes through the bottom of it from your line at the pole. And it's got maybe 2 or 3 wraps. That's the primary. And the wraps go through 2 smaller little transformer coils, which are the secondary. And the disc that spins through it, I believe, moves the magnetic field into phase. I could be wrong, but
it makes it wobble. It creates an oscillation.
It creates an oscillation, yes, exactly. Which in turn could create what? AC
current.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. As soon as I get it running in that way, I'll let you guys know for sure.
Well, from what I was told, you need 120 volts at about 2 amps to make it active, and then you start pulling a load off it. Hook up some lights to it.
Backwards.
Yeah. And if you can, try to alter the frequency, if you can.
Well, I don't know if anybody here has ever looked at John Keely's site. I think it's John Keely. He has over 2,600 free energy patents.
Yeah, so good. So
I've built a few of them. I believe a lot of that stuff's for real. I can't say for sure because I've only built a few devices, but the ones that I built worked. You could charge a 48-volt battery bank with a single battery. You just have to wire a coil into it and wire it in an oscillation with an oscillator. It's
I've already done that, and it works amazing. So basically, you're building a pulse motor, And then in most pulse motor circuits, what they do is they put a diode in there so the back EMF doesn't come backwards into the battery. All you got to do is take that diode out. So you could take a battery that's, say, got 10 volts in it, hook it up to the pulse motor that doesn't have that diode for the back feedback, run it, and about 10 minutes later, you'll have 12 volts back in the battery. It's like a boomerang effect, right back to the battery.
Yep, and it works. I believe the name was Patrick Kelly. I got that wrong. Thank you,
Patrick
Anthony
Kelly.
Williams, for correcting me. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I
site.
built that. I built that 5 years ago, and it does work. And it doesn't matter what scale you build it at, it works.
Yeah, it's an amazing little system. I should actually pull that out and show you guys one day.
Yeah, you could get a battery that's got like 10 volts. Like a battery at 10 volts in any power system is considered dead, right? So, yeah, just pop it in there, let the pulse motor run. You know, the back EMF will ricochet back into the battery and restore the battery. You don't have to hook it up to anything. Just hook it up to the battery, start the motor up, come back 15, 20 minutes later, your battery's charged up again. It's just like a boomerang
Looking
effect.
up that site and couldn't find it. He's also on YouTube, but I believe he might have passed away or something. He hasn't posted.
Patrick Kelly's gone. Yeah, Patrick Kelly died.
Rest
But
in
there is
peace.
another gentleman who opened up a website that backed up all his stuff.
That's good.
I'll get you the link. I just don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, Patrick Kelly, he died over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I
over
still
a year
have
ago.
all his patent file, though. I have all 26.
Yeah,
years.
so do I. Yeah, I got
Those
quite a
are
few.
key work. There's so much in there. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that stuff shouldn't be lost. That's some amazing history
And
right there.
I believe he's got the Adams motor patent there as well in his files.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I designed a water motor a couple of years ago. I haven't put together. I think somebody else built it before I got a chance to. It's a pressure washer in two separate chambers. There's a water chamber that feeds the pressure washer. The pressure washer spins a water wheel hooked up to a 200 amp alternator, and it collects at the bottom of the tank at the bottom of the water wheel, and that gets through siphon pumping, like basically a ram pump, pumps it back into the original water tank, and it just keeps cycling.
You know what? If they change that water wheel into a Tesla turbine, it might get better.
Oh yeah, the Tesla turbine. That's a very interesting invention. I believe that's what they were using in something like that in Tartaria.
Yeah.
Allegedly,
Paul
that
Cook.
was his favorite invention.
Yeah, it definitely was. Paul Cook put out a video, I think it was about 3-4 days ago, and it was a magazine that he was going over, and it showed some of the devices that you could hook up to your tap to get electricity for your home, and it looked almost identical to a Tesla turbine. Yeah,
I was reading one of Tesla's writings when he was talking about the Tesla turbine, and this was the first time I've ever seen him actually write down, this Tesla turbine puts out too much power. That was the first time I've ever seen him ever write that about any device. It has too much power.
Yeah, because he had a hard time regulating the power coming out of it. The torque on that was amazing.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman a couple years ago that was doing that sort of work on YouTube. In fact, he would spin it up so fast that he'd create ice just out of the moisture in the atmosphere.
Yeah. That's, when you start doing that, that's when magic starts happening.
Right, that's amazing.
But the thing is, you have to build that wheel so strong. Like, the centrifugal forces on that thing are just enormous.
Oh yeah, it just wants to explode.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like Tesla said, too much power.
Yep. He couldn't control it.
So, well, I pray that Matthew Rife's friend is okay. It's too bad we didn't get to have a conversation about the Rife technology.
Indeed, we will have to do that.
No, he's going to try to do it even tomorrow, the next day, and we'll get something going next week. Yeah, he's He definitely looks forward to it.
He had joined in before everybody else ahead of time. and then-
Right. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
ready to go.
Actually, I
And
have a
then
couple. Like when we do get him on next, I got to ask him a couple of questions offline for obvious reasons. So yeah, I just want to let you know that BurnEye next time we get online with him.
Absolutely. Gerald, did you have your experiment set up by chance?
Yeah, we can give it a shot. For some
Absolutely.
reason, it's not going exactly the way I want, but that's the way it always is with live. So, yeah, I'm kind of
Exactly.
set up to show what I can show. It's not much, but it's a little something that might give you food for thought. Let's just say that.
All right.
I'll turn on my cam here. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this without making too much of a... Doesn't want to leave. See how it doesn't want to leave the
very
side?
interesting. Yeah.
And it spins on its own. I don't know if you can see the line slowly turning. It turns faster normally, but I think there's some dust or something on the plate.
I
So
mean,
it's
this
got
is off
friction
topic,
that's
but you should
going
definitely
against.
sample this so we can make a beat because that is awesome.
Oh, what
Okay.
you should do. I don't know if you
Now,
have one.
wait, watch this. Okay, so as you see it, and it's holding towards the side, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to flip this magnet. Can you see that? It centers all on its own.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Ah,
Yeah, because it's the 0 points in the middle. The field is going around it. So you've created a torus, which you can't really see, but the magnet wants to stay at the 0 point in the middle. Now, if you were to get a ring magnet, okay, and somehow build the coil so it's going through the ring magnet, when you power it up, it's going to start spinning.
Yes and no. This coil has a strange geometry to it. I would have to put the coil in a certain spot in order to make that magnet spin.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
maybe
why.
not. Maybe not.
At least Scallon was doing something with that. I seen one guy out there. He was doing it. He put the ring magnet inside the coil going around. When he energized it, that ring magnet starts spinning.
do you have any ferrofluid on hand?
I do not, unfortunately.
Okay,
I
we
wish
can
I could
get
show the configuration of that coil. It looks like a solenoid. It's not. That's actually a geometrical form made with copper wire that's very thin. I think it's 36 gauge. I could be wrong. It's very hard to wind. It actually breaks really easily. It's not as small as the other stuff I have that's as thin as a human hair, but it's still pretty thin. And I shouldn't be able to do that with that size of a coil in that configuration. It doesn't get hot, and I was using 12 volts, 1 amp. That's all.
Yeah.
So-
When you got a small wire like that, it won't heat up. You'll be able to send higher voltages through a thin wire, but when it comes to current, you won't be able to do it. That's why you use a thicker wire to get more current through it, lower voltage, right?
That's the funny part. Most of the tests that I do, I don't use more than 12 volts, 1 amp for almost everything because of just the configuration that I use. It's
So I'm going.
geometrically based.
Yeah, I'm going higher voltage. I'm working at 32 volts right now, and the amount of current I'm using is less than 100 milliamps, and I'm getting
Yeah.
phenomenal results.
For me, it's a little different. I had to reduce the size of my coil and reduce my voltage because I was getting anomalies that, let's just say they were getting a little dangerous. I lost a TV, and
Ooh.
I don't want to lose another one.
Oh,
So-
you're getting
Dangerous
EMPs.
and costly.
Yeah, so I figured out how to do things differently so that I'm not making mistakes like that. So
Yeah, you're getting EMPs.
all an EMP is, well, not it. I don't know if you'd call it an EMP. I use impulse pulsing.
Oh,
If you understand what that is, I
yeah.
pulse right off the capacitor itself. So it uses the impulses from the capacitor, and I use a diode plug. I don't know if you guys understand what that is, but it's a way of moving the energy into your coil and almost turning the whole coil itself into scalar energy.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's similar to the Alexanderson antenna system. If you study that, that's pretty much what it is.
It's a little different, but I understand how you can think that way. Yeah, I definitely get the connection.
I
How do
find
you
it
drive the signal? Do you drive it with a signal generator?
Yes, actually, I drive it. That was only driven with 7.83 hertz, and it was pulsed at 10 volts on the signal generator, which, as you all
What's
know,
your
is nothing.
Yeah, it's
what
nothing.
is your duty cycle?
50.
Okay, I've been wondering that for a while.
Yeah, just
Hey,
50.
Jeremiah,
50.
just get on the stream at this point.
right. Like, come on. You don't
Yeah,
even have
just
to turn on your camera on. Just
do a
join
lot
us.
of it. The only way you
Considering-
find out,
Sorry?
the only way you find out this stuff is just experiment. That's the
I
only
did
way
that
you'll.
today with a conical bifilar coil I just finished, and I was playing with the signal generator. I had it about 4% duty cycle and was scanning through frequency ranges and got nothing out of it. That's why I was curious, the kind of a better starting point from someone that's been more successful.
Ooh, you
Yeah,
want
I've
to
made a
show us
lot of
some
coils
that, Adam?
into the hundreds, literally. Like I took one look at Matthew Rife's coil, and I know exactly how to build it. In fact, I might just build one. I built so many that it's just one look, and I understand the geometry from it. I've wrecked a lot of them. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why. I'm not sure.
Well, the one thing he said that really caught my attention there, where he was talking about Marco Rodin's coils, why he could never get them to self oscillate. He said, "Put it in the ground," and right
Yes.
there, I'm going boing. I'm like,
Okay.
of course.
But all that is a confirmation from what Tesla has said multiple times. But I'm not sure if people either picked up on it or would just not do it. He had a massive copper sitting underneath the Wardenclyffe Tower and in a lot of his Tesla coils.
Yeah,
So
very
he
large.
he would oscillate between what's underneath and what's above.
Yep. The tower
So
was,
as-
the
Go ahead.
grounding system was about the same size as the tower above ground.
Yeah.
That's how extensive. Yeah.
Didn't you have tunnels down into the salt water and all that?
Oh,
I
no
believe
doubt.
the coil. Sorry.
No doubt. I would say he did.
Yeah, I believe the coils themselves were actually submersed in water underground. He had found an aquifer, I think he tapped into.
Yeah, I think it was a
Perfect.
saltwater aquifer. I saw the
Yeah.
diagrams of that in underground. It was absolutely impressive. And I've got a giant ground rod for my ham radio setup that I can easily hook off the cable and run it over to where I've been experimenting. I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Yeah. That's an excellent
Yeah,
source to
might
get energy.
Yeah, you'll get some ground pumping. That's how the pyramids were built. They were
was
built on a great big aquifer that was a giant piezoelectric crystal. And because the Nile was so close to the pyramid, as the Nile would raise with the waxing and the waning of the moon, it would put pressure on that crystal and create high voltage, breaking the water molecule, creating hydrogen and oxygen, and pressure within the pyramid itself, and the electrostatics that would build up due to all those systems working together. Plus, the pyramid itself was covered in an alabaster rock that acted as an insulator, so it was basically a giant generator or a capacitor. So that seawater underneath would act as a ground pump, and they would ground pump electrons directly from underneath the pyramid itself, which is kind of what Tesla was doing with Wardenclyffe.
Didn't they find large deposits of mica near the Giza Plateau?
I'm not sure about that. That's
because I
interesting.
know mica is one of the preferred elements to use inside capacitors.
Yeah, the Mexico City there, that whole complex was covered in mica. It was
Yeah,
documented
that's
as,
capacitor material.
and I think you're right that I did hear like maybe the 1500s or 1600s was the last mention of mica covering the Egyptian pyramids, but not entirely sure. But I do believe there's accounts of it being on their way back. But yeah,
Wouldn't surprise me because that's one of the best dielectrics you could ever use is mica.
I don't know
right.
what they covered it with. That's interesting. I know it was white, and you could see it for miles and miles, and the sun hit it. That's about as far as I can go.
Yeah, mica I believe is a white beige color.
It's kind of a white clear. It's pretty fragile if you go
Yeah,
start handling it.
yeah, it flakes. I have mica at home.
They used to use it
Actually,
in vacuum tubes a lot in vacuum tube construction because it's a natural material.
and Tesla used mica a lot. Yeah,
And then they also a lot of the places also had a bunch of mercury found underneath them with the mica on top of those pyramids. So very interesting layers of materials that it has to they have to be macro generators. There's just nothing
yeah,
else makes sense.
yep.
Well, remember, there's the other option that the 12,000-year disaster cycle, because of the mini nova out of the sun, literally melts all the metal on the planet. So all of their generators, their equipment, they could have been a server room under one of those pyramids, and all you get left is like a pool of mercury from the rest of the
Yeah,
components that melted.
yep. Got fried. I just got to step away for a minute. I'll be right back.
No worries, Mike. JP momentarily for half a second joined in, so hopefully he's back. Maybe having
That's a good sign.
computer issues, always a good sign. Phase matters.
Well, phase matters.
Aloha.
Welcome. And
It's that guy. You know that
Gerald,
guy.
would you be willing, or are you able to go a little bit more in depth to your fun with alternators build and what you're doing with that?
Oh, I'd love to. I wish I could do a demonstration. I didn't get it set up for tonight because I was busy
No
working
worries.
with my daughter earlier today. But yeah,
Even if you just want to like show us the parts and describe it if you're available, if you
well,
want to
let's
keep
see
it
if
to another.
I could try and set up my camera to show you what I can of it.
Yeah, because it's the end of the year. There's coils involved in alternators, and what you're doing is essentially running 3 belts off of one engine, thus getting triple the amount. Correct? 3 alternators.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm running a treadmill motor that has a flywheel on the back, and the flywheel has a pulley on it that runs one alternator. And in the front of the treadmill motor is a triple pulley that runs 2 alternators on either side. So altogether, there's 3 alternators running off one motor. The motor takes 48 volts to run, little small battery bank, but I can charge 3 separate battery banks of large amounts because of these 3 separate alternators that I have. One of the alternators is 220 amps. One of them's 180 and the other's 160. So it's a bit of a mess. I apologize.
No worries. All true workshops should be in a state of some sort of disarray and mess. It just shows that you're working.
I don't know what my lighting will be like, but let's see here. I'll try and switch cameras. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, it's I use about 700 watts altogether running the treadmill motor, but I get out at max. I'd say it produces about 320 amps. What's that in watts? 3,600 watts, give or take. So I can't see. Here, hang on here. I apologize for the camera, you guys. It's in my hand. I don't know if you can see this. Everybody's going to be getting dizzy here. So this
Wow.
here is the double pulley. It's actually a triple pulley. It's from a crankshaft of a car. And I attached it to the treadmill motor that's behind it. And then you got the alternator over here. This one here is 180 amps, and this one over here is 160. It's hard to see the one in the back because I've got all the cables. As you can see, they're big 2-gauge cables. The alternator is sitting in the back, and then I've got the one power inverter here, and I got another one here. This one's 3,000 watts continuous, 7,000 watt surge, and this one's 2,000 watts pure sine wave. So the wiring's a bit of a mess because I'm in the middle of changing the circuits right here for something more efficient that Jeremiah actually clued me into. So that's the setup. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate it right now, but I will demonstrate it for you in the future.
You use pulse width modulation into your treadmill motor?
Yes, actually, what I use is I use a DC motor controller for it. And then from there, well, it goes from the 48-volt battery bank to a DC motor controller, and from there directly to the treadmill. And then to activate the power on the alternators, I use an external voltage regulator. And it only takes roughly 3 volts to activate the power on an alternator, and give or take 2 amps, 1 to 2 amps on your field, like to activate the field in your alternator, and that's what gives the current. So it's kind of like alternators are current multipliers is what they truly are. So
Right. Are you also running a motor controller, speed controller into the field coils of the alternators?
Nope.
Oh, you're running pure DC.
Pure DC.
Ah, okay.
So basically I'm running the alternator as it would normally run, except that I've taken the internal voltage regulators out, and I used an external voltage regulator, which gives me more control. And then that way I could put in more volts and amps if I want to get more out of the alternators. But it tunes so that I don't have to put very much at all. And my battery bank, I could split it, but it's basically 580 amp hours. So it's fairly large. And I charge that like nothing. I could charge it in 20 minutes. Same as it would take to run a vehicle and charge your battery in your vehicle.
Yeah, to answer Gene's splice, yes, the rectifier diodes have been bypassed and removed. He rebuilds these things from scratch, and it's quite the process. The interesting thing about alternators that I don't think a lot of people really consider is that the actual field coil for the exciter is at 90 degrees to the stators that pick up all that electromagnetic field. And in order to translate that 90 degrees field, there are these little teeth or jaws that interlace from the north and south pole and actually redirect the field 90 degrees from the rotor, which is just a simple solenoid. It's a single, continuous turn of wire that you feed with brushes, and then it rotates those through the steel plates 90 degrees into the stators. But what's kind of interesting about that is if you think about the atomic structure of the iron that's transferring that magnetic flux, the magnetic moment of every single one of those atoms in that iron is what's responsible for translating that flux. So in order for them to take that field and rotate it 90 degrees, they have to rotate as well, which means their electron shells, their valences, are also rotated. So they will spin atomically on that valence orientation. And so I've already gotten too complicated. Long story short, the field coils for an alternator without the teeth don't actually produce any power in the stator, or the outside case that we're all looking at, where all those pickup coils are. And so if we can get those to spin, we can actually gain angular momentum inside of the atomic structure. And now we have something brand new added to the equation. That angular momentum inside of the atoms of the iron can now be utilized because it has its own phase. The position of the electrons and their orthorotation to the stator can now be utilized to extract a small phase difference. And so we get a kind of strange phenomenon if we pulse it just right. And using PWM to power the rotor, which is what he's using, because he's just using a simple PWM controller. Well, there's a small little indifference that you might be able to utilize to extract that extra differential and actually draw energy from it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of testing yet to do, and no conclusions have been drawn and no claims are being made. But it certainly appears that there's an extra energy coming out of that system that we can't quite account for.
Yep, it sure charges a battery bank pretty quick, and we're still working on the numbers. So as far as being over unity, well, I guess we'll see in the very near future.
That's what 2023 is all about, right? And
Yep.
we're laying
Yeah,
the groundwork for it.
2023 is the year of over unity. 195% over at least, maybe 1,000.
Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
straight.
I'm back.
Nice.
I am back.
Phase matters. I want that T-shirt.
Phase really does matter.
It does.
Yeah, for my personal research, in terms of trying to actually get up in the air and off the ground, well, I produced a series of shorts.
Can you imagine all these kids with their Euro racks that are going to be able to finally save the world when they plug them into an EMF?
The connection with sound is quite profound.
I would say.
True.
I didn't mean to cut you off, though. Also, I mean, if you want to expand on what you were about to say, I apologize.
Let's just say we've been looking at electricity entirely in terms of current and voltage, and not in terms of how the actual materials that are carrying that current and voltage are reacting to those fields. And I think when we start to really zoom in and get down to the atomic level, we're going to find interesting properties of materials like copper, silver, bismuth, and a variety of others that we haven't previously looked at because, once again, back to Richard Van Dyck, all these materials have different electron drift velocities, which means the electrons actually flow through these conductors at different speeds. And the faster an electron flows through a conductor, the more energy it has. So if an electron flows through something like carbon, for example, something that could have been made in ancient Kemet over 4,000 plus years ago by simply burning hemp rope, we would find that that hemp rope burned into graphite nanotubes, or graphene nanotubes, we would find that it has a electron drift velocity of over 42 billion times faster than that of copper. Now, do you think that maybe something that's 42 billion times larger in terms of its velocity may have some effect on the relativistic fields of a charge?
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit. And so it's not obvious at first because that conductor will actually eject out the electrons, and so we're going to be left with a mass of protons, leaving the conductor itself physically positive, but leaving the space around it physically negative in terms of its scalar potential. And here we go with that term, scalar potential. All those energy researchers have been hearing about this stuff for years. What is the scalar potential? What is a torsion field? What are all these strange terms that constantly get pumped out there and misinterpreted? Well, a scalar potential is simply the potential of the surrounding space from a point source charge, like a single electron, for example. Stick one of those things out somewhere in the vacuum away from all other particles, and it's got the charge of 1 coulomb, 1 electron volt. Anyways, without getting overly complicated, if you make that electron move very, very quickly in comparison to something that's sitting still, your reference point, that electron is going to appear to have a very strong electric field on one axis and a very weak electric field on the other, because technically it never gains or loses anything. It's not changing its charge, it's just your point of reference from the side, tangentially at 90 degrees, it's going to appear to have a very strong electric field, but from its face, in the direction it's traveling, or the direction away from it, is going to seem to have a loss of that electric field. And that's because you've basically shifted that phase of the electric field 90 degrees, or encroaching 90 degrees by accelerating it. And when we find materials that we can utilize even a small difference in its velocity, we can take advantage of that to create field forces which are not balanced symmetrically within the classic equations. That means basically anti-gravity. That means extra energy.
Which definitely means over unity. And
I wouldn't go so far as to say definitely, but in the right circumstances, you can unbalance the entire system in a way that the universe abhors. See, the universe does not
Over
like
unity
out of
has to
balance.
do
It
with
will very quickly try to provide that extra energy. And if we think about the fine structure of the universe and how we end up with a positron-electron pair popping out of the vacuum from seemingly nothing, they just appear when we reach a high enough energy level. Well, why is that? Where do they come from? And where do they go when they recombine? Do they really annihilate, or were they simply always there? And do they reconnect with each other
right.
to the point where we can't measure them anymore? Well,
We often talk about over unity as being like field, and there's a difference between energy in a vacuum where there's nothingness, and then just energy we didn't notice before.
Right, and it's right there. So the brand new physics is going to come down to two words as far as going forward from here, and it's been a heavy subject that's been ignored for a long time, but rest assured, in the background, most of the major universities, particle accelerator laboratories and stuff, they're looking for something that's quite unique, and it's called temporal mechanics, I believe will be the name given to it. And that temporal mechanics, the manipulation of the way things flow through time, is going to be our new physics.
Oh, yeah. Time isn't what people think it is. Definitely. It's just a form of measurement.
Right, so imagine that we take two plates. And I guess, no, for this I better turn my cam on for this little demo. So we rotate this so we can see some hand motions and gestures. Imagine we take two plates, metallic plates, positive on one side, negative on the other side, alternating back and forth. Okay, if we pass a charge through the center of those two plates, like say we fire an electron through the center of those two plates, and they're oscillating back and forth, positive and negative, what's going to happen is that charge is going to wiggle back and forth as it tries to always push away from the negative plate and move towards the positive plate. Well, if it has a given forward momentum, it's now got extra momentum along this axis as it wiggles back and forth. We call that synchrotron radiation. Inside of a synchrotron, there's basically a series of magnets where we fire an electron past those magnets, and it wiggles back and forth and produces an electric field that then continues in the direction that it was traveling. So as it's going down, it has an electric field compression in front of it that's going to be like a wave or a cup that'll actually follow it, where it's more negative in the direction that it's going than it is in the direction that it's coming. And now if an electron is sitting on the outside here, let's say that this little point here, let's say that this thing is an electron, and let's say that this thing is an electron, and this electron is moving down. Well, as this electron moves down, what's going to happen is, as it moves towards this other electron sitting out here, it's going to push it away. But as this electron travels past it, it's going to pull it in. And so if this other electron is just sitting here, it's going to basically make this motion 90 degrees or tangential to the motion of this electron, because their fields are going to try to connect with each other, and there's going to be an interchange of information between them. But if we have a stream of electrons, lots of these little things just moving down in this direction, and we try to measure the magnetic flux of all these directions, or all these electrons sort of in this string, in this chain, we actually don't measure a magnetic field. And the reason for that is the electric field is fairly uniform from our pickup probes, so we don't measure a changing magnetic flux because the electric field is fairly constant. Yet, other charges are going to want to try to flow into that same direction. They're going to want to try to follow that electron that's flowing in any given direction. So inside of a solenoid coil, let's say you have two individual wraps, two loops. You got one loop here and one loop here. If we place these next to each other and we pass a current around this loop so it rotates, well, current around this loop is going to rotate because those electrons have a relativistic velocity that's been increased due to the fact that they're moving now, and other electrons in the other wire are going to try to rotate along with them. We call this coupling. So a pretty funny thing happens, though, when they're separated by some distance from each other. Now, this can rotate, but it's going to take a little moment for the speed of light to reach this other thing before it rotates. And we can actually reverse the direction of this so that one of these can be pulling in that direction and one of these can be pushing against this in the other direction. And now we can generate an unbalanced force that doesn't violate any laws of conservation, doesn't violate thermodynamics. It's all right there within the equations. And I know everybody wants to say Einstein was wrong. And yeah, it was incomplete, not wrong. Big difference. So
well said.
And just the same with Newtonian mechanics. You know, Newton's basic equations didn't suddenly become wrong when Einstein came out with his more complicated equations of special relativity and general relativity. They simply became more complete. Well, that's not where it ends, obviously, because science is always advancing. That's the whole idea, is that we're going to continue to advance our knowledge and fill out those little gaps where strange scenarios that we haven't previously tested are going to generate new results that we hadn't previously predicted. And
I agree 100%.
there are new properties of the universe that we're going to learn in the coming years, thanks to the fact that really the world has kind of, well, it's exhausted what we currently can do with our given particle accelerators. It's exhausted how far we can stretch the basics of what we've been operating under with our current theories. And
we spend a lot of time using monkey logic.
The universe that we haven't been exploring.
We spend a lot of money using monkey logic too.
Good
It's
heavens,
like,
do we ever.
it's a kind of, it's weird. Empiricism, people keep acting like it's Baconian, it's Socratic, it's Aristotelian. It's monkey logic. It's playing games with people and places and things and seeing how they play back with you. And not everything wants to, let alone can play by your rules. Physics doesn't have rules. Games have rules. Physics is just truth, you know? And so at the end of the day, we have to observe it sometimes. But yeah,
man, you nailed it. That was the word right there, Andreas. It's the observation. In fact, in Ken Shoulder's interview with John Hutchinson, there was a really profound thing that he stated when asked by the interviewers about his theories on how exotic vacuum objects behaved. And they asked him,
David says, "Don't knock
he had a
monkey
good
logic."
operating
Is that
theory,
a
and he said,
Thomas Jefferson
"I
quote?
don't deal in theory. I deal in my observations. I don't care what anybody has said. The only things that I believe are those which I've observed." Paraphrasing here, not exact words. And it's the observation. If you look back through history, even in Tesla's notes, you know, when I was taught about Tesla early on as a child, 13 years old, I was told that Tesla didn't take any notes, that he didn't like math. That's all BS, flat out.
Yeah,
Tesla has so many notebooks, so many.
Yeah, ask Trump's uncle, right?
Yeah, they took trucks.
Right, go ahead.
To clean out his hotel room when he died. Trucks. That's how much they had. He had trunks and trunks and trunks full of notes. So whoever said he doesn't take notes is full of malarkey.
Right. But let's just take a look at the mind of Tesla. If you take a look at his notes, and I have well over probably 1,000-something pages of Tesla's notes, there's something that you won't find inside those notes. That's theory. Tesla did not theorize, sit there with endless mathematics, and try to figure out what was going to happen before it happened. What he did instead was go to the lab and did experiments. He made observations. So it's actually the best observers that always make the discoveries throughout history. It's not those who
guys with cool
theorize or
girlfriends.
academically try to gain their prowess.
Remember, Einstein's girlfriend helped him out a lot at the patent office, to be fair.
Well, I think that this whole modern notion of theorizing your way to success was sort of a compensation method for those brains that didn't have the ability to put their hands to work. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know how to build anything. I don't know how to do anything.
There's a lot of failed cadavers of physics.
And try to say that I called it first, so that way people will trust it, right?
It's all theory. And that it's, sure, the mathematics work in this theory, but you're not physically testing anything, thus we're not developing it anywhere. And it's all just this random string theory, quark, this and that. Right. And it's...
We need more like apophatic...
Because
we need apophatic apophatic deduction. So you need to figure out what things are by removing what you know aren't true. And we often, again, spend so much time trying to get the thing to react to us. Yeah, there
You
you
Look
go.
at
need to
that
take
notebook.
notes. That's only one of them. I have like 3 of these. These are all notes from experiments and observations only. There's no
Yeah.
theory.
You gotta have notebook. I had like books like that full of cheat codes in junior high. Like you can't not print everything. I think printing is the most important thing.
Notes are
so-
important.
I also have
Theories won't get
notebooks
us there.
upon notebooks.
Theories are what we really got heavy on when we were starting to build things that would kill us, mainly weapons. And it's really nice when you're creating something so powerful and so large that you have no idea what it's going to do. But the theorists predicted that, I'm trying to remember the name of that island. Anyways, one of the earlier nuclear tests, it had predicted the
Bikini?
actual output of that system, and it ended up being many times larger and caused a lot of harm to both the observers and other locals because the output energy was so much greater than was predicted theoretically. So we've written new equations, and we find that if we continue to break that limit, the universe is nonlinear. As in, the more energy we put into it, the stranger it gets, the farther it goes. That nonlinearity is really the key to all this technology. The fact that it doesn't follow a basic trend line, but it actually is going to respond to the fact that you put in an electric field or you put in a magnetic field into any given part in space and time, and it can no longer take that same kind of field, so the flux will flow through it more easily. In fact, I'll show you an experiment a little later on that will demonstrate this quite clearly as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to see that we can actually increase the speed of the electrons through the wire, through their fields, or the speed that they communicate with each other, and increase the frequency of a helical oscillator significantly just by simply having other helical oscillators identical to it nearby. And that's something that's not quite predicted. So
What do they?
we'll get into that later.
What do they say about theory? Those that theorize can't do, and those that do observe.
It's a good way to put
Usually
it.
it's teach, I thought, but yeah.
Oh, right.
It'd be good if they observed.
Yeah. Observe, then teach what they observed. Wouldn't that be the correct way to do it?
We've spent so much time and energy on theory that I think modern science has lost its way in experiment.
Well, see, that's the nice thing about engineering over science is that you don't necessarily have to be the first. You just need to do it best.
Something
And I'm
I
sure
saw.
I pissed off a lot of theorists by saying that. I'm not saying that there's no purpose for theory. Theory will literally save lives or destroy them if we get it wrong. Theory has its place, but ultimately, if we go back through history, it was all about observation. We didn't get Faraday's laws. We didn't get Maxwell's equations. We didn't get any of that stuff by theory. That was observation. And people need to remember that we need to go back to observation and experiment because we're not going to get there by just imagining how things work. We actually have to look for these things. We have to test them on the lab bench. We have to connect wires to power sources, connect coils to energy supplies, and we have to see what happens.
We have to look at new ways to observe, figure out new ways of listening.
The number one thing people need to do is... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Adam. I apologize.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the things physicists do is the moment they get a hold of information, they start plugging numbers away. They never stop to ask, why are we using numbers anyway? Do these numbers mean anything here? They don't ask the context, and that I find very interesting, that they instantly go to the math instead of wondering. And one of the things that gets me is like how they describe where things are at with X, Y, and Z coordinates. An electron doesn't care where it's at. It cares if it's at. If they don't look, are these numbers even useful the way we're using them?
Well, isn't the very definition of science that it should be about the repeatable, provable facts by multiple independent individuals? So what's theory?
That's basically theology.
Right, like getting back to the scientific method.
Yeah.
That's the core of science.
And most schools don't even teach the scientific method anymore. They've dropped it as criteria.
Wow.
It's now some sort of occult knowledge if you know about the scientific method.
Now it is the science.
The science bought and paid for by your local government. Sorry.
Well, they do run the school system, and they did buy and pay for it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get anything out there into academia if you think you found something that could help or advance us as a race, considering that those that are at the top are more afraid of losing their status or jobs than they are actually bringing us forward as a race
See, you're
or
not
into the
working.
next stage. Sorry?
You're not working on electricity or anything. No, no, no. See, you're working on a counter for climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. That might work.
Yeah, we've got to keep in mind that even relativity itself was founded on the principles of the observers, people like Maxwell, long before it ever came to fruition. It was, standing on the shoulders of giants once again. And yes, it did actually make predictions before they were observed. And he got some things right, but that wasn't really the key. The main foundations of what was there came from the observations. And the theory got a few things right, but it got a lot more wrong. And that's why, again, we once again have to revisit it, reformulate it, because it's quite incomplete and it makes some major fundamental errors. Otherwise, we'd only have one relativity. We wouldn't have special relativity and general relativity and a whole bunch of other various offshoots. I mean, think about Einstein's last 15 years of life, right? He tried to convince the people that had praised him so much, put him up on a pedestal, that there must be something like an aether, whether or not you want to call it that. Otherwise, there's just no way for field forces to communicate with each other. But no one would have it because it's, well, too practical. It didn't fit into the present mathematics, and people had been bought into that. They learned that mathematics system. They had learned those principles, and they didn't want to give it up. And they fought tooth and nail to make sure that it stayed. Even though the man himself who had wrote that theory was trying to convince them otherwise from his new discoveries.
Yeah, then they weren't following the scientific method. They were following the science.
Right, and the science is really akin to a religion. It's pretty much dogmatic at this point.
Yep. I agree 100%. Like they say you can't mitigate radiation. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I fully believe you can
Hutchinson say
mitigate it.
they have. The Kesh Foundation says they have. There's a few other groups as well that I believe have shown that they've been doing it through like different frequencies and through different like monatomic
Methods.
plasmoids.
Yeah. That makes sense. I know Bob Grenier, I don't know if he
Yes,
founded that
Bob.
method, but yeah, he definitely, he was bringing out, what is it called again? Sonification, basically. I think that's what it was. But he was bringing that out to mitigate radiation, but I don't want to just kill the radiation off the way that system does, the way Bob Grenier was discussing. I want to capture it. I want to create the opposite exact spin, and I want to collect the energy that comes off of it when it's turning into its daughter product. And then I want to use that energy as a load until it continues to degrade to its base product so that it's, well, inert at that point. And as it's becoming inert, I want to be pulling the energy out of it in the process. And I don't think
There's
there's
some people
out there yet.
Some people say that's a spark gap, and you can use a spark gap for that.
Yes, I believe that a spark gap has something to do with it. I think it's the spark by far.
Yeah, the
But
plasma, the arc plasma,
Yeah.
the ionization of it, the ball lightning, essentially the plasma state ionized material.
Right, and in terms of plasma, what are we doing, right? We're ripping the
if you
electrons
will.
away from the valence shells around the protons. So now we have a proton that doesn't have enough electrons to balance it, and now those electrons are basically being shared and slung and flung between the individual protons and their valences, so they're free to move about, where otherwise they'd be bound in a valence band. Well, that means that they're going to have a higher velocity if they're moving from A to B to C to D, and the higher velocity is going to give them a higher relativistic potential, meaning that they'll actually appear more negative than they otherwise would be because they've gained momentum through the acceleration. And it's that key that right there, that acceleration, when they are in any given place and they move from one velocity to another, they're going and do gain energy. When they slow down or they lose that velocity relative to another proton, they're going to be losing that energy. So it's that energy exchange right there. Now, an electron doesn't technically have to exit the atom in order to produce a field that gets transmitted through space. In fact, all it has to do is just move slightly farther away from the proton and then back towards it. And when it does that, it produces something called a photon, which is the electric field of the electron no longer being balanced out properly by the proton. And that's basically how all atoms communicate their field forces between each other. In fact, it's responsible for all covalent bonds in the chemistry. In monoatomics, in your case, BurnEye, what effectively is claimed is that all the electrons have been stripped and the protons are now in a state where they're unbalanced and highly reactive. So highly reactive. I've got this little sample from Dan Foster in the audience today, and it's an amazing thing. If you simply give it a bit of hydrogen peroxide, an oxidizer, at a low percentage, this material is so reactive that it'll actually catch fire. In fact, it's more reactive than potassium permanganate, for example, which already is a pretty catalytic chemical. But this stuff is way stronger on that scale. I've watched it flare up, produce steam instantaneously. It's freaking amazing, and because it doesn't have enough electrons to balance itself out. And that's why when you look at it at an angle, it's sort of a crystalline material. It actually seems to refract light in a multitude of colors. It looks like a dark kind of purplish black, but it seems to have greens and reds. And that's all because there's not enough electrons inside of it to properly react with the electric field of the electrons that had produced the photons in the first place. So they don't bounce off. They actually get absorbed and refracted at strange angles.
So like the red material I make, when I dry it out, it can spontaneously combust. I've seen it do it a few times. Extremely reactive sort of compound. And I need to do it. That's my plan for 2023. Taking this alchemy / the monoatomic / plasmoid plasma state matter ormes, and doing a whole bunch more of actual experiments with it, as well as sending off a bunch of specific samples to different labs or fellow people in the community that can actually test it and verify what it is.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we had a spectrometer just on call?
I know. Adam, actually, you were last time we talked, weren't you getting a smartphone or computer-based one set up or working on one?
That's a really good question, and I was, and then I completely, totally forgot.
Yeah, that app. You found some app or something.
Yeah, also keep in mind that Adam has not exactly been gifted much funding, so he's kind of just out there doing his own thing in the genius way that he does it, but doing it on an extremely shoestring budget. So the fact that he's been able to achieve what he's been able to achieve is nothing short of miraculous.
Well, and the other thing, the reason why I wanted the spectrometer was to do that experiment for Bob Grenier, where I would run the bagel coil with the xenon in the middle with a microwave activating it. And he didn't like my open air microwave thing. He thought that was dangerous. So I rebuilt it inside a microwave oven, and it turns out it melts the bagel coil wires when you turn on the microwave enough to activate the xenon. So I can't run his experiment the way he wants it run anyway. So it was all kind of a moot point. I think I could run it open air, but I'm not sure that anyway. Apparently everybody's going to freak out and think I'm going to microwave myself. So why even bother doing the video?
Well, I mean, I used to see spectrometers for sale, like used at military surplus, like these like San Diego surplus sheds and stuff. How much can you get a spectrometer for on like eBay?
Well, I have a spectrometer I can just look at. I wanted a computerized one that had really good resolution. And I can go look at this stuff and see, because I was looking for the bright line spectrum to either have extra lines, shift brightness from one to the other, maybe a line vanish or something. That's what I was looking for. And my initial results, I did not see that happening. So there was really no point to getting the fancy computerized one running.
Right. How much was the fancy computerized one going to cost? I saw like a used one on eBay.
A webcam, a webcam, diffraction grading. And you need a computer to run it. And there's this great, I think it's Italian website, that does
Yeah.
scientific instruments that gives you software for free.
That is really cool.
So it's not expensive, and I've got a camcorder. What?
Yeah, I saw a USB 2000, which was probably like $300 on eBay. That's not too bad, for like Ocean Optics great equipment. I'll put that in the private chat. I mean, if anyone wants to send $300 to Adam so he can actually like do the research necessary to make this work, that'd be sweet. Then you could have digital reads and this stuff, because we're trying to get. Also, the other thing would be shaping waves back, and that would be nice. I'd like to get something that can shape waves back and put it through, which I think you could probably do literally with a synth, but it would be interesting.
Something I saw that had never occurred to me before is that these different torsion fields and stuff will change the magnetic properties of certain materials. And I forget the examples. Mercury was one of them, but it never occurred to me to check the magnetic permeability of mercury in real time as I go, put it around other fields. I think there's more useful avenues of research doing that kind of thing. So that's where I'm focused next. Anyway,
we got a comment from T-Joy, 17 Joy, sorry. I run a database of Rife and other frequencies for correcting, fixing diseases. Yo, that's awesome. Send me that. I want to get it on GitHub, make a JSON script, import them into something that we can run through our machines, because it'd be nice to have just like a simple HTML web-based thing you can plug USB into, and then it outputs the shape wave and frequencies that we're talking about. And I think we're halfway there, because there's a lot of music equipment that I've been kind of looking into recently because of this, in software, digital audio workstation DAWs, that I think you could use this to control EMF.
I love how Adam went from the microwave experiment, which was too dangerous, to the much safer mercury experiments.
Everybody loves playing with mercury. You shouldn't love it. Shame on you. What do you got there?
The bagel.
These are Rife frequencies. From my understanding, I've got A to Z, different types of arthritis, and I use these with my coil when I'm going through major pain, and 5-10 minutes, pain goes away. I don't know how I can get these to you. It's literally like it's been printed out. It's all the frequencies from Rife's system. As far as I'm aware, that's why I wanted to talk to Matthew Rife. I wanted to coordinate to make sure that they're the exact same frequencies. Like, this is C, I think, or is that B? No, it's B. And it's got everything in here. Brain waves, the alpha beta states, breast tumors, you name it.
Yeah, the strange thing about that is that list used to be available online, free to download for everyone. And then last time I checked up on it, it was all stripped away. Now it just takes you straight to a Google search if you click on any of the links.
So if I can
if you go on DuckDuckGo and you type in Rife Frequencies Archive, it'll take you to archive.org, and they are on archive.org.
Oh,
it'd be great if you could post a link to that in the chat for anybody else that was interested.
Yeah, and do you want to
sure,
throw that on screen there, Andres?
One second, let me pull it up.
If you don't mind, please and thank you.
I'll just clean this computer out so it's a little okay. So we go to our internet or archive and we type in Rife frequencies. First, you'll find people have actually put sounds up. I mean, make sure one F. And then if you go to the page and go to texts, there's only 5 results here, but here are the February 1970 use of discrete. And here's the borderlands, and here's the resonant frequency contents, right? Here's the contents, which has the zip torrent of all of the frequencies, as far as I know. But I could be, there probably are other frequencies as well, And then here are the 1988 PDF and 1970 PDF talking about the Rife frequencies, and a lot of the research in it is, the formulas, the waves, how they work, how he puts them together. So there's a lot there actually in some of these research books.
Interesting.
Right. So I'll put the links in the private chat, and you can share them with the folks at home.
Awesome.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and transfer over a different device to the tripod, and I will show you something interesting about frequency and helical oscillators shortly.
Yes, please.
Legit.
Always love a live Join the Technicians JP experiment.
There is something interesting about the helical pattern that I've been seeing a lot of people claim the minimum energy requirement for interesting stuff to happen has to do with the magnetic field being strong enough to create the helical path in the moving electron. And I found that from a couple of different sources recently.
Please do go on.
Well, I mean, I figure he'll show whatever he's going to show. That's about it. It does make me think about the bagel coil, where you're making a helical path and you're forcing it to do that. I think there's definitely something to that that's interesting. But I'm going to wait for Jeremy.
Posted the link in the live chat for everyone for the.
You can make a spectrometer for about $30. It looks like. Also, I'm sending a link to Instructables that talks about using an Arduino, and there's all you got to do is you upload the software to the SD card, put it into the Arduino, and then there's I think like 5 components you need to get. 2 LEDs, 1 photodiode, 1 analog switch, 1 OP amp, and then 2 film condensers, and then that should allow you to do that, and then it digitally outputs. I sent the link to the Instructable for that as well.
Yeah, just to open that up, I'm gonna have to look into this.
Yeah, we could do this. We could do this actually pretty cheap, because like I would recommend actually, instead of using an Arduino, to use the Texas Instruments Launchpad, which is like I think $1 to $4, I think, something like that for a piece. So you need to do a little bit of soldering, probably, I think, because I don't think the launch pads come pre-assembled. But maybe they do at $6 or something, which is still less than an Arduino, which is like $30 to $60 depending on which Arduino you get. So
I already have an Arduino.
Then if you've got an Arduino, then yeah, just build this. Freaking if you have 2 LEDs and you need to get 2 film condensers, I'll send you the list. But you need a 01 UF film condenser and a 0.1 as well.
What do you mean film condenser? Like a diffraction grating? I've got plenty of those.
Let me show you here. Hold on. And also it comes with all the code for what you need, so you just upload it. But yeah, so you need a couple.
I'm worried if I click on the chat, it'll take me out of this.
Well, yeah, don't do that. But I'll send you the links to it later then too. But look at these guys here, right? This is a film condenser. Oh, can you put my screen on, Bernie?
Sorry, yeah.
See these little guys here?
Gotcha.
Polyester film condensers. You can get a box of
capacitors.
Them. Well, you want to get a film capacitor though that's at 0.1 and then also at 0.01.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty of. I prototype a lot of electrical hardware. I've got lots of. I have 0.1s and I have ceramic 0.01s. I'm not sure if I have a.
Yeah, it's recommending film. I don't know why. I believe there's a reason that has to do with the analog signal. So I would recommend trying to get the fastest the fastest capacitor possible. If not a film condenser, then another, either's probably better, a crystal capacitor also.
Those are really fast, and they're not. I have them. I've got plenty.
Yeah. But that will affect your resolution likely. And the other thing to consider is like how fast your photodiode is. What are they using here? Hold on. Photodiode. These are always fun. I love these kinds of projects because it's like, oh, we have all this crap around the home. Like all this stuff's built in. You got like to take apart your electronics. You can't do it anymore. It used to be in the late 90s in California. They're just like piles of electronics from the last Christmas that people had, and you just take it apart and there'd just be like stepper motors and floppy drives that you could use for anything, Now you just buy it from China.
Not anymore though.
But if you get a box of LEDs, so LEDs are weirdly useful. You use these for the circuit, and you put this in between it, make a lot, and you can make a synthesizer that makes noises, using just an LED and an Arduino, and maybe an oscillator to control the variable oscillation of the sine wave that's produced. But that's pretty sweet. So you just get a box of LEDs at different sizes, and then those diodes will affect a lot, basically.
I've been collecting components since the 1980s. I've got plenty of odd stuff from different eras.
Yeah, so you know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I got like a box of like old chips too that I'm like, these are really special. And I'm really worried someone's gonna go across them in my parents' house or something and be like, oh, who cares about this? This is like a box of 80s, chips. Nobody could use these anymore. Throw them away. I'm like, no, that's the vocoder.
Gosh.
Yep.
All my extra chips from past eras are stored in a building that I have an alarm on.
That's smart.
Well, it happens to be next door to where I'm at now, and I live a couple buildings down. My internet doesn't work at home, basically, so I'm somewhere else right now.
This is interesting. You could probably add a screen to your LED, to your system. You could have like a JavaScript screen, so you could actually see the things. Someone did this. What's the other one? It's like Euro rack spectrometer. I bet you there's like one.
Oh, my hardware visual spectrometer is way more accurate than that. I can actually see dark line spectrums from the air and stuff like that from looking out at a cloud or something. It's got pretty good resolution.
Yeah. But it doesn't. But you can't. What's the problem with it? It's that you can't get a digital out.
I can stick the phone on it and take a picture. It's just it's not super clear. I can get really good resolution.
What's the name of the unit? What's the name of the model?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
Does it have a serial cable? Does it have some sort of a serial?
Oh no, it's pure optical is all. It's just an optical device.
There's nothing like this on the back, like these little serial ports.
No, it's made out of plastic and paper and some optics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not computerized.
Interesting.
But it is a lot better than a lot of the handheld all optical ones that are out there. It's got very good resolution. And that's why I said when I looked through it, I was planning on sharing this with everyone, but I didn't see any change. And then the wires melted in the microwave, so there was no point in really trying to continue. And then I found other stuff that seems way more entertaining.
Mass spectrometer.
Oh, that'd be fun to have, because the other big reason to use the spectrometer in the bagel coil field excitation experiments is to see if you get any transmutation. A mass spectrometer would be so much more useful at that.
Well, that was reasonably priced in my opinion. You saw that? It was like $399 or something, like $350 for a mass spectrometer. I mean, these things are affordable. You can get a mass spectrometer.
That's at $350?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would love one.
I mean, yeah, we need somebody to send us money, but $350 later.
Or just the equipment, if anybody wants to donate extra equipment. Yes. These are on our.
Please go to this eBay and buy the Varian Saturn 2000 and send it to the P.O. box associated with the fan mail. What is it? P.O. Box 131, Cambridge, Minnesota. Yeah.
And then you end up with like 4 of them.
Hey, if I get 4 mass spectrometers, that's
perfect.
The merriest
One
Christmas.
For each of us.
Yeah, I will make sure that I'll distribute them like a communist, each according to their needs. You know what I mean?
I think I need one. I haven't actually.
A commune.
You might think you need one. You might think you're hungry. No, I'm just kidding. We'll make sure, Jeremiah.
Well, I know my connection here on this device is going to be pretty crap, to say the least. But let me just kind of show you guys what's going on here.
Solo. Yeah.
Okay, so on the oscilloscope, we're measuring the output from this probe here. This is just a isolated, or it's just picking up the field. The tip here is picking up the electric field from this coil, and we can see if I bring my hand close to it, I really affect the frequency. So this is a simple Tesla secondary coil, also known as a quarter wave helical oscillator. And if I take another coil and let me see, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tune the frequency generator, the function generator that has 20 volts peak to peak input. And we could actually see if I want to pop this on the screen here, and I will read it out because I know that it's tiny little numbers. So I'm putting in right now about 20 volts peak to peak, and I'm receiving out of the top of that about 34.6 volts peak to peak. So we're getting a bit of voltage gain because it is oscillating. That means that the Q factor of this coil, it's recycling its energy, it's bouncing back up and down, and it doesn't really have any place to go. There's virtually no load on it, so extremely low power. Now, if I take any other coil, like this one here, and I stick it next to this oscillator, right now we're at a frequency of 3.42 megahertz. And that's the frequency at which we reach the maximum potential of this oscillator. If I move this other coil close to it, now what I'm going to have to do is turn down my frequency to get that peak. Peak's not quite as high. Now we're only at 26 volts, and now we've decreased from 3.4 to 3.2 megahertz. So placing another coil in proximity to the first will decrease its frequency. And that makes sense because this device is capacitively coupled, meaning it's actually the capacitance between one turn to the next that sets its main frequency, and it's the capacitance of the entire coil at the top, its high potential, to any other conductor, in this case, just another coil sitting ungrounded. And so we'll have to tweak that frequency in order to get that maximum peak. So once again, I'll pull this away, and then we'll see I'll have to turn up my frequency. Right now we're at 3.3. We're going to turn it back up. There we go, 3.4 megahertz. So here we have a basic relationship. Putting another conductor next to an oscillator will decrease its frequency because the capacitance in its surrounding field increases. Now we're going to do something kind of interesting. I'm going to take another coil that's wound identical to this one. Here we go. And I'll place it next to this coil. First off, before I make any changes, I'm going to have to decrease the frequency once again because now we have this passive coil is connected to nothing, and this active coil connected to the function generator with only one lead. Here we go. This is our one lead. And now I have to bring my frequency down to 3.3 again. But watch this. If I connect both coils together, so I'm supplying them with the exact same signal, and I need to note these two coils are wound as identical as I can humanly make them. They are virtually the exact same copper mass, the exact same diameter, number of windings, and length on the same material. So now I have to turn my frequency up to gain that maximum amplitude. This is the free resonant frequency. And look at that. I'm now at 3.8 megahertz by having both of these two coils connected to each other at the same base feed point right here. So why would the frequency go up? When we know adding another conductor around any given oscillator is going to decrease its frequency to an increased capacitance. Why would adding two oscillators increase its frequency? Well, the answer to that is actually rather straightforward. If you think about something called a variable refractive index, meaning space and time, it can only hold so much charge and only hold so much magnetic flux. So, because this coil is already producing an E field and a B field, it's also helping this other coil to produce that same exact field, but it's doing it more easily because this coil has already polarized the surrounding space. And so this coil is now going to react to that pre-polarization, and it has an easier time creating that same oscillation. It doesn't have to work so hard. So the velocity of that potential through this space, the space in between these coils and the space around these coils, can more easily flow. I'll go ahead and stick two more coils on this system to show you yet again that adding more coils, and it's not just a matter of two oscillators, you can add as many of these coils as one would like. And I'll connect them all once again. I'm now going to connect all four coils. And we'll take a look at our output, our free resonant frequency of any individual oscillator. And we're going to see that unlike before, where the frequency goes down by having surrounding conductors, our frequency is going to go up. So here we go. We've got all four coils now. We're going to connect them to that same exact signal source. we have a low amplitude on the scope. And now I'll continue to ramp up the frequency, and I'll read it out for you what that frequency is when we hit our peak. With all 4 coils connected, we hit our peak at 4.2 megahertz, 4.2 million cycles per second. That's a significant increase from the 3.3 that we started with for an individual oscillator. And this is basically telling us something very important about the nature of space and time. If we add any given charge or any given magnetic flux to a space, all other charges and all other fluxes in the same polarity and in the same phase will flow more easily and at a higher phase velocity and group velocity than they could previously. That's why we are increasing the frequency of all these oscillators. Every single one of these is basically paired together. They're all the same. And their frequency individually is 4.2 megahertz now, because at any given point, one coil is being helped out by 3 other coils in that surrounding space. This basically proves, as a live demonstration, that the refractive index of space-time is variable. And if it's variable and we can screw with it, that means we can use it for field propulsion or
That's
anti-gravity.
so awesome.
And
You
this
just
with
did mess
Or
with
free
it.
energy.
all the same
It's
chirality, correct?
Demo. It's such
That's a monkey. All right, now monkey logic is cool. That was pretty good monkey logic right there. Play with it. There you go.
So that's really. I know probably most of what I said may have even been crapped out, because I know this connection is garbage, and I know most.
Well, we heard it. It was a very good explanation.
For those who know and understand what's going on here, especially the ham radio guys amongst you, they're going to understand the significance of this. We have to understand how to manipulate the properties of the vacuum in order to produce field propulsion or anti-gravity. If we can't manipulate, we can't produce unbalanced forces. And if we can't produce unbalanced forces, we can't produce propulsion without something to push against. And this right here tells straightforward that we can create something to push against simply by modifying the parameters, the permeability and the permeativity of the vacuum, also known as epsilon and mu.
I guess what it comes down to is that the vacuum state depends on the energy around it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it comes down to. So ultimately, all these coils are supposed to go another device, and it's one that I showed last time I was on, and it's this thing. So they're going to sit around here, and this is just a placeholder capacitor. This capacitor will actually be as wide as this entire glass plate and be multi-layered. Anyone ever heard of the ARV? So when these coils get pumped up, and right now you got to keep in mind, I'm running these things at milliwatts. These are going to be pumped at several hundred watts altogether. And that increase in energy is going to create even more stress on the surrounding vacuum space. And when they are phased so that they fire, not simply at the same time, but when they fire 1, 2, 3, 4, they will create a circulating electric and magnetic field. And that field will grab onto that surrounding space and rotate it along with it, which means that every single air molecule, every single ion, the vacuum itself, in fact, will be entrained into that field rotation. And that field rotation will be imbalanced because it's being canceled out by this shorting ring. And this is going to be our other field plate. So by creating an asymmetry, not only an asymmetry in the electric and magnetic fields, but also an asymmetry in the distribution of those fields, we form something called a gradient. That gradient gives us the ability to produce an unbalanced force, which actually can exert a real physical push or a pull on objects, like, say, the entire craft.
Okay, so sum this up for someone. If someone's just tuning in right now, tell them what you're doing and what this is.
I'm building a flying saucer. A mini one.
Thank
a little.
you.
No one said it's going to work.
No, but I mean, this is interesting because there's a couple of things here. One is earlier we were talking about free.
I have 1,000 failed experiments for every one that's really a breakthrough, and I think that's the way that science generally goes.
Well, someone earlier, Leo, was asking about the Searle experiment, right? The Searle generator, and the idea that you could have maybe perpetual energy.
Same thing.
Yeah, you could have perpetual energy, and then once you can even if there's entropy, when there's perpetual energy, you can feed off more energy. There's field energy, so that's not over unity, but it's still freaking awesome.
Well, it's energy isn't free. Okay, there's no such thing as free energy. That's a misnomer. What we can utilize is the properties of the vacuum itself in order to gain an advantage from our observer point, from our reference frame, in the overall system. So we can direct the way that entropy will flow. So we're not getting anything for free. We're just simply utilizing the properties of the universe that already exist, and we're directing them by choice.
You keep it going. I mean, Gerald, you've seen Gerald's. I think it's Gerald's, right? You've got the coil set up, so you basically could run your refrigerator and part of your house forever, right? Is that right?
Yep.
So that's the thing. I think the Searle engine makes sense, especially in circumstances where you're going to keep your house going. You're going to need a certain amount of power all the time. That's a perfect place for it, because once it starts, you don't need to turn it off. Some of these other things, Jeremiah, you're working on, they're interesting because you can start them and stop them. And I think that's, kind of nice. It's a different kind of thing.
Jeremiah's back now. He missed a little bit of.
Oh, I was just saying, Jeremiah, it's like, so one of the things the Searle engine works on perpetual energy in a sense, as opposed to over unity. Some of the things you're working on sound like you can start and stop them.
I figured if we don't have the ability to control and observe what we're doing, we're not going to get very far. So by creating a system that's not free oscillating, but we're actually going to force that oscillation, forced resonance, then we have better abilities to control and manipulate those fields. And that's what we have to have if we want to really do something that they don't normally do on their own.
And we want to do it efficiently.
Yeah, so like I said, no one's telling me that this is going to work. It's just one more approach to try and do something that really hasn't been explored in this exact way as far as a physical device. Lots of theories. Plenty of theories, endless theories. We'll take you all.
Can you post that link in the comments? Guys, if any of you want to buy this, there's only one of them for sale on eBay.
Oh,
so if
that's
you want to buy...
super long link. I'm not sure that's going to fit.
Oh, dang it. You know what? Wait. Bitly. I'll do a Bitly thing because they can shorten the link for you.
Yeah. Perfect.
God, I'm such a millennial sometimes.
I also apologize. I have not been looking at any of the comments because that little phone is barely connected. And so I'm going to have to go back over this later, but I'm not really able to see all the comments right now. So if people are asking questions, someone's going to have to verbally read them out to me.
There you go. Send that link. Guys, it's a race. Which one of you will buy the Varian Saturn 2000 GCMS mass spectrometer? And whoever, there's 5 watching. So some of you are probably already thinking about it. If one of you is just like, you know what, roll the dice. I want to see them with a mass spectrometer. I want to see what they can do. I want the Ormus flowing. I want the free energy pumping. I want to perpetuate perpetual energy. Buy us this Varian Saturn 2000. Send it to the PO box listed in the description. I'll make sure it's like 131. I don't know, something like that. 131 Cambridge, PO box 131 Cambridge, Minnesota. And that way we can continue the research. All right, I hope that link got to work. Did it let us do it?
I posted it.
Let us do it.
It works.
Oh man, sweet, that works. All right. Good luck to anyone, and whoever buys the thing, I will send you rainbow glasses and a 3D printed statue of like Moses or something. I don't know. So. And
one of my headies.
Yeah, you want a giant head? I will print you a giant head. How about that? That seems pretty reasonable.
We will trade.
Hey, it's not like getting a little head, a giant head.
No, like a oversized.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, great.
Big right, so we need the mass spectrometry. I also need a signal generator and a variac. If anybody out there has an extra 1 or 2 that wants to angel donate or support our research going up to the next level.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure Mike and Gerald and Jeremiah could also all use different pieces, and Adam. We all need different equipment. You
could donate your guitar pedals to EMF research. The world, it doesn't have to be the spectrometer, but whatever it is, like, let's try to get this stuff built.
I am up for trading. I'm up for trading a variac for a mass spectrometer, but I know that's an uneven trade.
All depends what you're doing with it.
Well, actually, guys, we're beyond the 2-hour mark. Is there something else you want to share? Because I'm supposed to jump onto another stream that's about to start for me.
Well, I'm done for the evening. I was mostly set up for Matthew to come on, so all my questions were sort of geared towards that.
I've said what I needed to say. I'm basically operating on almost no sleep, so if I mashed my words in the very beginning, I do apologize.
We're gonna try to rope you into the
You
New
did
Year's
great.
thing. New Year's is gonna go on forever, and then there's also gonna be music and fun and dancing. It's not gonna be too bad. But also Monday, come back and we'll try to get you to divulge a little bit more of just unwrap that coil a little bit, you know?
Right, exactly. And
Unravel the mystery of the Aether itself.
Yeah, that's all we're
maybe for-
asking.
that wizard stuff. And
Maybe for a future live, we'll have to set up some experiments so that are.
All right, Bruce can't do the $100 shipping. Somebody send Bruce $100 so he can do the 350. So that we can let's
we
make
need
it
to
happen.
start crowdfunding
Or-
equipment.
Or you know
100%.
what? Go to exertus.com, click the donate button, and say for mass spectrometer, and then we'll put that all toward. Come on, make
And
get
any
the
angel
spectrometer.
exactly. Any angel investors, donators out there, my PayPal is also always listed, and we have endless amounts of equipment that we are lacking that we need to purchase to be able to take these experiments, these ideas, this research to the next levels of who knows, could
You
be
can buy a T-shirt,
extended
whatever.
life, anti-gravity free electrical energy power, so much different stuff.
It
Bruce
all
says
goes
he'll
to real
donate.
science instead
Bruce,
of
go to
buzz.
exertus.com, xirtus.com, and there's a donate button. You can actually like click on the give forms. If you go scroll down a little bit, it says give forms. Thanks a lot.
Sunny Profit done. How
Sunny
much
Profit.
do you need? What?
Dude, Canadian $2 bill. That's actually all I need from you. I love you, bro. Are you kidding me?
Oh
you
no,
know,
we have $2 coins, not bills. We have to be different just a little bit.
We have
Yeah, it's the tuning.
I was making a spoof. Yeah, the toonie. But I was gonna say, guys, you don't have to donate, and don't like starve yourselves or anything like that either. We're never trying to do that. So like, just it's just awesome if you're able to help, and if you can, then do, because that helps us continue to make content, because we're all just kind of volunteering to do this, especially dudes who buy equipment for themselves to build you free energy. You ought to good karma yourself and like get him a mass spectrometer. That's all I was trying to say. Yeah, if you all if buy a T-shirt, because the other thing is, I was gonna say, if like you don't want to donate, like get something out of it. That's fine too. I get it. If you don't feel like this is enough, we're trying.
Exactly. I do a deal.
Pretty much. Sorry, Bernie. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to be starting fundraising in the new year. I will be starting a GoFundMe, but for donations as it is, with my PayPal, anybody that donates over $50, as long as they're also willing to pay the shipping, I will give a free T-shirt to. And anybody in the past
Sunny Profits,
done that,
$350 plus $95 shipping for so $450 just about. But we'd cover. I mean, like we'll figure it out. That's what we're trying to get. Basically, try to get $500 to buy a mass spectrometer for my boy.
So yeah, about $500 if it's Canadian.
Just wait until we get into phonons,
in Canadian money,
plasmons, and blaritons.
Sunny Profit says he is serious. So yes, it's about 500 Canadian that we're needing for this machine.
Click on the master, what's it called? The master of the library keys button in the give forms, because you also unlock all the mysteries of the school. So that's welcome. You just click, that's like the in video games where you can skip to the end there because you get the extra suit and the better sword. Nice.
Jeremiah, I'm very hyped for the plasmoids.
Yeah, you know exactly how significant that can become.
Oh yes.
I need that signal generator and
I gotta jump off. You're gonna have to finish this for me while I do the next one.
All right,
I love you guys.
End it right now.
Thank you.
And the next
rest in peace, Barbara Walters. Rest in friggin'
peace.
Burning peace.
Much love, Xertus.
I'm still here.
Yes, the next episode we will have Matthew Rife on, as he was supposed to tonight, but hopefully not tragically, but unexpectedly had to go. One of his employees was in a car accident and had to take care of that emergency. So we pray that everybody is all right. This is Rife's YouTube right here. I will post in live chat, and then as well there is Gerald's. Or first we will do so. Matthew Rife was saying that hopefully even tomorrow, but tomorrow's New Year's, so probably not. Hopefully by January 2nd
Matthew
or
Rife
3rd,
was saying
we'll
that
have the
hopefully-
next episode together with him.
That'd be awesome.
Sorry, what was that, Adam?
Oh, I accidentally clicked on the link that you put in the chat, and it started this same broadcast again. I did not mean to say anything.
Weird. Okay, my bad. Sorry about that. I did.
You're muted, Bernie.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so first I posted Matthew Rife's link in the live chat. Now I'm posting Mike Faraday Research's link in the live chat. Next will be Gerald's in one moment. I guess I
Yes,
should.
go to my channel, subscribe. I got 121 subscribers only, and the more subscribers, the better. So please go click the subscribe button and let's see if we can get it up there. Just saying.
How do you tell how many subscribers you have?
You got to go to your channel, and it says at the top.
Oh, why can't I find your channel? It's always the worst.
I don't know how to get to my channel.
To find your channel, Adam, you just click on
your icon in the top right corner.
Yeah, and then it should say your channel. Here we go.
Wait, 101 subscribers, 45 videos.
Gerald's channel.
Well, clearly,
Hey, Gerald,
we
popped
increased
up
that
in the
number.
comment section.
Yeah, just all I could say is just keep doing the podcast with us, and you'll get your numbers up. I'm at just past 2,200 subscribers now, so that's amazing.
Wow.
All
That's
right,
awesome.
so
Yeah,
here's
and all
Gerald's
that being said about channels, I'm not looking for more subs, but if people wanted to see some of that content that I'm posting, they can find it on Exotic Propulsion.
And here's Faraday, Mike's channel, and for JP's channel.
And also donate to these guys too, everybody. They're giving you guys some amazing information and a wealth of knowledge. Even if it's just $1,
Exactly.
you don't have to give the world. Just chip them a coffee. What it costs for a coffee. It might sound. Yeah, it might sound insignificant, but if everybody chips in $1 here, $1 there, it adds up, and they can buy parts that they need for the experiments, and
Are you kidding? I'd love to get enough for just a coffee. That'd be amazing. Everything I built from garbage or repurposed stuff from old TVs and whatever it takes, right?
What it's all about.
Yep. Get her
There's
done.
And a little bit here, a little bit there. Everything helps.
Yep.
This is Adam's channel right here, Space Case Zero. You've got several pretty good videos up there of different stuff, so definitely also go subscribe to Adam's channel.
And I'll try not to post any more chicken videos.
Man, I'm gonna get so much crap for showing what I showed today. I already can tell that.
It's all part of it.
I guess I should post my own channel. Please do also subscribe to my monetized channel, my second channel, if you have not. BurnEye Mind's Third Eye, ScienceGuy channel, and this is the link right. Never does it. There we go. There it is. All right. On that note, have a happy New Year. If we don't see you, we're doing a couple streams tomorrow for New Year's Eve itself. And we will be doing another Real Science / Year of the Coil with Matthew Rife within the next week. And it's still in year 1 of Year of the Coil because we're only 6 months in. This was only episode 6. So we got 6 more to do before we turn into year 2. And 2023 will be awesome.
Man, I can't wait to hear what happens when Gerald and Rife get together in the same conversation. That's going to be something.
Right?
I'm looking forward to it.
Rife with knowledge and healing is what it should be. And on that note, stay blessed. Love you all. See you on the next one. And I didn't end it because I just looked, trying to post my link for donations through PayPal, and for some reason it didn't copy over, so I'm kind of pissed. And sorry about that. If there is someone out there who is willing and able, wanting to donate, I will make sure that I add it immediately into the video description on my channel as soon as this is done. So thank you all. Look back in a few minutes. Much love.